All right, we are going to wrap up Genesis 1:4 today as we talk about that word good. And we come back to that, we've kind of digressed on that. And because we really need to understand what he means, that it was good. And it was related, of course, to his plan and purpose. God is going to call this good, this creation, again and again, right? And so I think coming back to Genesis, we should understand as we read through the lens of the whole Bible, he means that what he's created is good for its purpose of expanding that circle of Trinitarian love and creating beings like us who will be partners, recipients of that love, but also partners in this love relationship with him. That's what is good. He's saying it's good for that. If I build a house, it may look pretty or it may not, but if it provides shelter, if it provides warmth, then it's good. It's a good house in that it's achieving that purpose. And the more it achieves that purpose and the more long lasting, you might say, the better the house is, right? So when God says it is good, he's not just saying, oh, wow, I'm really impressed with my work. He's declaring, this is what is good for the purposes by which I have made all things. Now, that comes back to this idea that there is a progression in this book, in this chapter, and there's a progression of creation until the creation of mankind. Male and female, he creates them in the very image of God, and he gives them some sort of dominion over all the rest of all that he has done. So it's almost like he has given us governorship of all of this. And so man and the woman as kind of the crown of creation then, and the recipients of this love. I think what's happening when he says it is good is he's saying, in particular, it is good for mankind. It is good for this created being that I'm going to bring forth. This will be the kind of universe in which that being can flourish and thrive and be the recipient of my love fully. That's what he has in mind when he says it is good. He's not just patting himself on the back. He's declaring and showing to us this is good. What's good? What I have done, my purpose and my creation for this purpose. Now, the reason I want to emphasize that is because we need to remember that, first of all, God loves this creation. It is a good creation. And it's not like God views it as this garbage heap that he can't wait to get rid of. No, he will redo this creation, but heaven itself is not going to be this disembodied existence. It will be in continuity with this creation. Yes, there'll be a new heaven and a new earth. But again, as Paul talks about, there is a continuity as well as a renewal and transition. We Christians should be the first to be environmentalists. We should care about this good creation that God has made. He loves it. He has pronounced it good. And we should too. We should seek to make this all that it should be. Now, the second reason I want to emphasize this is good is because that word, that phrase is going to come up in a different, from a different mouth and a different viewpoint in chapter 3. And in that chapter, of course, you have the fall. You have Adam and Eve being tempted to eat this fruit, the one thing that God had prohibited. Of course, we'll come back to that. But it says in chapter 3, verse 6, when the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. Now, the reason I want to bring that about is because not only is that word good for food used, but also that idea of pleasing for the eye and desirable. So kind of all the different elements of goodness. It's good for its purpose, it's pleasing, it's desirable. It stands in contrast to what God has said is good. God has said, what I have created, my good ways, including my restriction of not to eat from the tree, is what is good for you. Because I want you to eat from the tree of life and not from this tree. And you can't have both. We'll come back to that idea too. But instead, the woman She hears and knows all this, and Adam with her, of course, eventually. She knows what God has determined is good. And she looks at this and says, this is what's good. She determines an alternate good that she will choose. So part of the reason God emphasizes again and again in Genesis 1, this is good, is to show us a little bit about the meaning of sin. Sin is rejecting God, in particular rejecting his ways and his pronouncements. When God says this is good, we say, like Eve, no thanks. I'm going to determine for myself what is good. And I'm going to choose that apart from you. And that arrogance, that rebellion is at the heart of sin. So a good thing to meditate upon today. Am I choosing what God brings into my life as good? Or am I choosing what I simply want apart from God as my good and seeking that? Because that will determine where we are if we're following Eve before the fall or Adam and Eve after the fall. All right, that's enough for today.